good evening, listeners to TDN and to this week in interview, listeners and viewers, I should say. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Interview with your host and guide, Anthony Drago. Always a pleasure to spend an hour or so with you on a Wednesday night. And of course, tonight I'm super excited because I am in the presence of greatness. I'm going to introduce you to my special guest. Um, I mean, I don't. If you're not from Dominica, you probably haven't heard. But Miss Annette Sanford, handsomely, although handsomely usually refers to a man, but she handsomely won the election for the chief of the Kalinago people for the next 5 years. I think the term of the Kalinago chief is 5 years. And so she was grateful enough in her busy time to agree to come on with us and to so we can get acquainted with her at the beginning of her reign as chief of the Kalinago people in Dominica. That is what that is. So I am super excited for that conversation. I have been following and admiring Miss Sanford for a while. I think she may have been on this weekend interview before because I did a program with Women of Workers a few elections back, and I I think she was a part of that group. But she will tell us when she comes on. But those of you who know that she is tireless and she has been in pursuit of the opportunity to represent and to serve her people for a number of years now, and she's finally getting the opportunity to do it at the highest level. And so tonight, I am going to endeavor to not only introduce you to her, but to have her explain the dynamics of the governance of her people, the interaction of the chief and the village council and the PAL rep and anything else that helps us better understand our indigenous folks in Dominica. And of course, those of you who don't know, you're going to find out that Dominica is the only island that has um, still some of the original, well, who's original, right? But as far back as we can recall, some of the original people who occupied the beautiful islands of the Caribbean. And so I'm super stoked, as I said, about tonight's episode. I'm going to give you a chance to invite your friends and your family to join us. Share the link, share the live, as they say. Give you an opportunity to get some water or whatever your favorite beverage is, and a quick 30-second break, and we'll be right back. And I will introduce you to my guest, Miss Annette Sanford. All right, so we're back. We're back, and I hope that gave you enough time to make yourself comfortable, and so we can you can sit back and relax and participate. Those of you who give comments, whether you are if you're watching us on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, you can give comments. You can like. You can subscribe. Our regular listeners, welcome back. I am always grateful for your time, and if tonight is the first time that you're listening to this week in interview, I want to tell you welcome. I hope you enjoy being with us enough that you are going to come back and also become a regular listener. I'm not going to take up much more time. I'm going to bring my guest on right away, and I want to introduce you. Let us give a very warm welcome to Miss Annette Sanford. She will tell us if there are any special designation that goes in front of her title as chief of the Kalinago people. But either way, we want to give a really warm welcome. Annette, welcome to this week's interview.
Thank you, Mr. Drago. Good evening to your listeners. It's a pleasure to be with you all this evening, and I'm looking forward to the interview. In indigenous language, we say Mabrika. Hikuni
Mabrika.
Karihi.
We've had a few. of your folks on, and they give us some of those words. I remember Mabrika, and I was trying. They were saying that they do like a Kalinago word of the day on DBS, and I was trying to see how we could link it up on TDN, so we could have the word on TDN as well, and maybe start to compile it, and maybe every quarter, whatever, run a little contest for the audience to see who remembers what. So I think that's maybe something we can do just for fun and also a tremendous benefit. But first off though, Annette, I want to tell you congratulations
Thank you.
on your win as the chief of the Kalinago people. And with that congratulations, I want to wish you a tremendous um, success. I'm sure you're under no disillusion that it's going to be a tough road, because you're located in Dominica, and Dominica is not going through its easiest time on a whole. But I'm pretty sure that you knew what you were getting into when you got in. So I want to wish you all the best for a very successful and memorable term as the chief of the Kalinago people.
Yes, thank you very much.
Right, awesome. And of course, I saved it until I got you on, because I know I have a feeling you want to add it as well. We want to say congratulations to Thea Lafont and the Dominican people on her tremendous achievement. Thea won the gold medal at the Summer Olympics in Paris in the triple jump. Tremendous, tremendous achievement. So I wanted to save saying that to give you the opportunity as well to say a few words to Thea and everybody else.
Yes, thank you so much. And somebody reminded me yesterday and actually said, Annette, we need to get Thea's number and give her a call. And so I want to thank you for this opportunity. And Thea, Lafon, wherever you are, I want to congratulate you on behalf of the Kalinago territory. We are very proud of you as a Dominican and also as a woman to have achieved this gold medal on our behalf. So the entire community is happy and we are rejoicing with you. And we look forward to perhaps having a visit from you sometime and to engage you in conversations that will help inspire our youth within the Kalinago territory. So, once again, congratulations, Thea.
Awesome, awesome. And of course, you want to add our voice to that. Radio SBE Online in Toronto carries this weekend interview live, so you have that audience there. We know Canada has a tremendous indigenous population as well. And on Dominica, RVR Jams Radio on DigiPlay Channel 59 carries this weekend interview live as well. So your good tidings to Thea definitely carried to a very wide audience. So let's get started in terms of introductions. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience. I know you are a nurse by profession, but we're more familiar with you in your strong desire to serve your people. You've made a few attempts, and not winning the election has not stopped you from what I understand, has not stopped you from being of service. So I want you to take a few moments and actually introduce yourself. Who is Mrs. Annette Sanford? Tell us a little bit about you.
So, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have three children, biological children, but collectively we have about six children. My husband has three, and then I have my three biological children. We also adopted a young boy about 3 years ago. So that makes it an addition seven.
Seven.
It's a
Yeah.
big family.
Big
Yes.
family. Mm.
So I served as a nurse for more than 13 years in the Dominican service. So I worked at the hospital. I was rotated around the community. I worked at La Plaine for a little bit of time. Then I worked at Marigot. I also worked in the Castlebrooks Health District. And then I spent the last few years of my nursing career at the Imre Ward at what we call now the China Friendship Hospital. Um, I worked of course, as a registered nurse, which is bedside nursing. But currently, I have moved away from that, and I serve on the college. I'm board as the as as one of the lecturers for nursing students. So we train nurses who are interested in achieving their bachelor's program, and I'm one of the clinical instructors. So students who are attached to the different wards, um, they will often meet me on the ward. So I still get to interact with patients. I still get to engage the patients on a day-to-day basis. And of course, I get the opportunity to look out for my indigenous brothers and sisters who are admitted. Um, so that's what I've been doing lately. That is before I got into the Kalinago chief elections. So after I resigned from my nursing practice with the government, I, as you know, went into the Kalinago chief elections and I lost by 3 votes. But I still continued to work within my community, and I got the opportunity to serve as a candidate for the United Workers' Party in 2019 as well, of that same year that I lost the election. And I lost again, but I got the opportunity to serve as a senator. And throughout my recent campaign, I've been telling people, I have never regretted that opportunity that I was given by the United Workers' Party to serve as a senator, because it really helped me to build my leadership qualities. It gave me the opportunity to speak to a wider audience about our concerns, our needs as an Indigenous people. And also, it allowed me the opportunity to network with business persons, regional networks, other international individuals who are interested in giving back to my community. And so this really helped me to build on some of my weaknesses. And therefore, when I decided to work for the Kalinago chief elections this year, I I can see clearly that the people, their trust grew, and they had confidence that I was able now to really represent them, and they went out and gave me their full support. So over the years, of course, prior to serving as a senator, one of the key things that I've done is to establish a foundation, which is Kibekwati Inc., um, by networking with various professionals within the Kalinago territory. And oftentimes we would write projects to various donor organizations in order for us to be able to get the funding to do projects within the territory. And that in itself too has been going on very well. We are able to meet a lot of the needs of our community through writing these projects and being able to get access to this funding so we can do and give more to the community. So that's me in a nutshell. If you need to ask me any question, of course, I'm here. If I
Yeah,
miss,
certainly, certainly. So, on behalf of your people, I want to tell you thank you so much for what you've done so far. And just like Thea Lafont, last night I listened to Q95 and I heard Lennox Linton give a little bit of a history of the trials and tribulation, not well, the road that Thea had to trod to get to the top of the pinnacle as the Olympic champion. And similar story to you, that when you got knocked back, when you did not achieve the result that you desired, you did not give up. It seemed like it spurred you on to try even harder. And so that in itself is very inspirational. So I want to thank you for that as well. Now, now that we know a little bit familiar with you, I want to do a little bit of familiarity with the Kalinago people, because we have viewers and listeners who are not Dominican, and so we want to give them a little bit of that background. But also, I don't think that Dominicans are as educated as they should be about our indigenous people. So I want to take the opportunity now to just give us a little bit of perspective on your people, the Kalinago people.
so the Kalinago people are often referred to as the first people of Dominica. Columbus said he discovered us, but we don't believe that. He met us here, and well, we have been existing for a long, long time. Um, in 1903, well, post-colonial times, in 1903, the Kalinago territory was established as the 4th of July, 1903, and So we officially became the Carib Reserve then,
Hmm.
right? So now you hear people refer to as the Kalinago territory.
Right.
That's because the name change was done sometime on the 12th of March 2015, in recent times at Parliament. So we exist on a piece of land about 3,700 acres large. And our population in 2011, which was the last census that was done then, showed that we had about 3,000 inhabitants. However, I believe through migration, a lot of our professionals have been migrating to greener pastures. We perhaps a little below 3,000 for now. But we still do try to hang on to our culture. Although most of it has been assimilated, I would say, because when Hesketh Bell, started establishing the reserve, we were brought into schools. And what happened is that a lot of our language was lost because we were now being taught English. So if you go through the territory right now, you will find it very difficult to meet someone who knows the indigenous language. But you will get a few people like Mr. Prosper Paris and Mr. Langley and his wife who have been trying to revive the language for some time. And they're doing a good job so far because right now I'm hoping that in my term, we can really bring this language into the schools and have our children learn it. But we have been trying to have people learn a little more of the language. So you will see some business places with indigenous names. And right now, we also try to do the naming ceremony where a lot of the indigenous people tend to have indigenous names currently. So every year during Kalinago Week, there's a ceremony that is done, a naming ceremony, where indigenous people can be part of that ceremony and they get an indigenous name. Also,
And
we still
when is
engage.
that week? I'm sorry for interrupting. When is Kalinago week?
Oh, usually it's celebrated the week of September 19th.
September 19th. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. And then, you know, we still engage a lot in trying to have a lot of our cultural practices. So the culinary arts, we still practice that, our cassava foods. We still try to teach the younger generation a bit of how to use cassava to do various foods. But that in itself is not very common, but I'm hoping that eventually it will grow. We do still have our traditional wear. It's not very prominent in the community, but we're hoping too that eventually, as we seek to revive our culture, some of these things will be practiced on a larger scale.
Right.
So the indigenous people have been trying to revive their culture. We have been trying to hold on to some of the practices that have been keeping us alive and keeping us, as people quote unquote say, resilient. Our agricultural practices using our organic fertilizers, growing our plants um, during the proper moon, these kinds of tradition that makes us unique. So we still practice it a lot, eating certain foods. So the women, would eat certain foods to help them get more fertile. The seafoods and all of these things will help them to um, be able to bear children easier. So these are the some of the practices that still exist, but we still have a lot to do in training our younger generation and to appreciate these traditions, appreciate these practices, so they themselves can grow up to practice it and teach their children to do the same.
Right. And so that's a little introduction to the Kalinago people. Uh, when we did Caribbean history in high school, you were described as as fishermen. Incredible seafaring people that would travel great distances on the canoes that you build from out of tree trunks. Also hunters. So how strong are those cultural? We call it cultural, but that is what people. That's how people fed themselves. How strong are those habits and practices?
It's not very strong anymore as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we have about three boat builders in the territory that still practice boat building, and most of them are elderly. So, one of the things that I'm hoping to do is, like I say, have them train the younger generation on how to keep these practices going, how to do this special skill, so that it wouldn't just die out with them when they pass on. So it has been a struggle for us as an indigenous people in terms of keeping our culture alive, and that definitely is on my agenda as the new Kalinago chief, and hoping that we will find ways to inspire young people to appreciate the culture and get more engaged in practicing it.
Right. And so agriculture was a big part. I grew up right next door to the Kalinago territory. I grew up in Castle Bruce. Um, so I have some familiarity with your people. They would come to Castle Bruce to help show us some things on the farm, to work with us. Um, all of our cassava production, farine and cassava bread, get a lot of involvement in that growing up. Your folks, you said your language, you said assimilation, and so this, I guess, is going to be sort of like a sensitive topic. I don't know if there's anything that can actually be done about it, but do you think measures need to be taken to help protect your people from further assimilation? Or is that not something that is necessary? You just let nature take its course. What's your thoughts on that aspect of it?
That's definitely a very sensitive topic
Hmm.
because the last time I recall even suggesting one of the actions that I would take, it kind of caused a controversy with the person that was interviewing me.
Hmm.
However, I do think that we have to protect our indigenous people. It's just like you have certain species that are going extinct, and you have to find ways to preserve them. Our indigenous people are at a threat of becoming extinct. That's a fact. And one of the ways that I've suggested is to encourage our young people to interact with other indigenous people, maybe not in Dominica, but overseas, firstly, to see how the identity can be preserved. We need to find people who are sharing the very same ideals, same ideas, and appreciating the things that we do. If we don't do that, then of course we're going to be impacted by the different cultures that are coming in, the different attitudes and way of life of other people, which generally globalization we know is affecting everywhere. But for us as indigenous people currently in Dominica, we know we are a tourism product. That's a fact. People leave their countries in the international regions and overseas to come to see the indigenous people. And usually, I believe when they come, they would want to be engaged and to see what an indigenous person is, what they do, their lifestyle, their culture, the foods that they eat. And when they come to the territory, if they don't see that, then it would mean that perhaps they would feel that the experience wasn't what they expected. So it has been a struggle for us because our foods have been changing. So we see a lot of our people now eating imported foods like rice, maybe mac and cheese. Even right now with KFC, a lot of our people would perhaps go to town and prefer KFC. But then the foods that really kept our elders healthy and strong and living to see 100 years, the young people, we have to try to engage them to get back to the foods that we eat before, the provisions, the callaloo, the shellfish, the food that we want. I think it can be done. We have to find ways to preserve our culture and to preserve our indigenous people.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're not going to get any pushback from me for those suggestions, because I think there's a lot to contribute, not just the Kalinago people, but to the wider Dominica and by extension the region and the world. I remember there was one Kalinago man that used to live in Castlebrooks, Mr. Toff. And when we used to go to the on the beach and the river mouth, I remember seeing Mr. Tough laying under the water, just laying there for minutes, and you just see one or two little bubbles coming up from his nose, and that skill. As I said, I mentioned some of the traditions in terms of teaching us how to grow certain plants, how to process certain foods. Just you mentioned about women knowing what herbs or what foods to eat to make them more fertile. So it's not just when if your folk get assimilated that we lose that as you guys as a certain genome, but the benefits that come from your culture and your tradition automatically gets lost. And in a society where we're not very good at recording stuff and keeping records and history, that can be lost. And so I for one believe that as a people, it should not be left to chance. I think there should be steps that should be taken to encourage the preservation of your people and your culture and your tradition. Some of the things that come to mind, for example, is probably some media specific and dedicated to the Kalinago people, by the Kalinago people, for the Kalinago people. Other people free to tune in and whatever it is, but it will be primarily for that, so that their young folk, your young people can have a medium through which they can learn those things. I have read some of the books by Mr. Sanford about, and in there is fiction, but he also encompasses some of your traditions around how you prepare your folks who have passed on, and the ceremonies and the rituals. I think all of those things are super important. So I hope you are able to initiate and implement uh, that kind of an initiative that works towards the preservation of your people as a people, and to recapture some of your culture and some of your traditions and your rights and your rituals. So
Yeah.
let, let's go into you as Carib chief. When I promoted this show, I was careful to put in there first woman Kalinago chief in recent times, because when we studied your people in history, women always featured, you know, front and center in. So I think you have a tradition of women leadership in your people, and so they were warriors. They were right there next to the men. That's how we studied it. So it's quite likely that there may have been women chief before. And do you know if there were any?
I heard there was a great chief Navarrete.
Mm,
I have to do some more search on
some
it,
more
but there
search,
was
right?
this one female chief I know that served at one time, and
Navarre.
she, I understand, was one of the greater leaders of the times. But I will need to do more search on her.
That would be very interesting. Uh,
Yes.
the other thing that I want to ask you about is, what are some of the urgent and pressing needs of your people you don't have a choice but to tackle and would like to see some improvement on as you start your term as chief?
One of the priority for us within the territory is access to credit.
Mm,
Over the years, we've been having great difficulty with getting enough finance to be able to perhaps build our homes, buy a vehicle, and just, have a comfortable life like other Dominicans around us. We have been restricted because we don't own land titles as an indigenous people. And because of that, we cannot go to a bank and ask for a loan, even if we are a teacher or even if we are a nurse, because we would not have anything to show as collateral. As a result, most of our teachers, most of our nurses, and well, our public servants on a whole work for years. And in the end, you will see that they really don't have much to show for working for all those years because it's just so difficult for them to get access to credit. So, one of my primary aims is to find out, well, to work towards seeing how we can have our people get more access to credit, have a financial institution within the territory to serve both as an area where they can save, as well as an area where they can take small loans to be able to survive.
Right. And so that is because the physical property, the land that makes up the territory is owned in common,
Communal.
right?
Yes, it's
Communal,
communal
land.
Yes. So
So,
generally, the Kalinago Council
mhm,
and the Kalinago Council has authority over these lands. So
mhm,
we cannot sell it for anyone on the outside. It belongs to the territory, and it cannot really be done anything. I've been trying to search and find out, best practices of other indigenous communities across the world, and in speaking to individuals, intellectual minds like Mr. Martin, possibly we can look at having a land bank. So that is one of the things that I'm hoping that we can establish within the territory, to have that institution within the territory and have the council have ownership over it, so people would be able to get access to credit. And if they can't pay back, then the lands can be taken over by the Kalinago Council. So
right.
that is one of the things that can be done, and I'm hoping that I can work on it.
Okay. So I'm pushing hard against a break, a commercial break. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'm going to give you a chance to name if there are any other areas that you see that needs urgent attention in the territory that you would like to see tackled. Like when people come into office, they like to say, "In my first 100 days, these are the things I will tackle." That kind of thing. What are your thoughts on those early ones? And then we'll expand and see what are some of the chronic and um, areas that we need to address for improvement to the quality of life of your people. So, folks, stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I will continue my conversation with Chief Annette Sanford, the first lady Kalinago chief of recent times, and we're having a pretty interesting conversation, and we were going to continue with that. We're going to talk about interaction with other communities, indigenous communities. So don't go anywhere. It's a quick break. Let's say thank you to our sponsors.
Presented by
a smart house run by a vengeful AI, a mute witness to an act of unspeakable evil. A breadfruit thief is haunted. A young man unwittingly creates a god. Giant crapos terrorize a community. A witch seeks revenge on her neighbors, and much more. The Piton Noir Writing Collective is thrilled to announce the release of the third book in their acclaimed anthology series, The Flying Crapo. Jumpstart your summer reading with The Flying Crapo, Heroes and Monsters. Now available for purchase on Amazon.com. Get your copy today and embark on a journey filled with heroes, monsters, and the magic of the Caribbean.
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146 for a smile that lights the world.
How much Dominican history do you know? Want to learn some fun facts? We have a great and fun way to test your knowledge and learn more about our history. Get your copy of Dominic Anu, Dominica in Puzzle. Fun for the whole family. Available now on Amazon.com. Visit pushpast10.com to learn more. Email us at dominicainpuzzle@gmail.com or call 877 698 9894. Looking to promote your business, engage current customers, and reach new people? Well, look no further. From the basic presentation to a fully fledged advertisement, use your video ads to attract customers. At Man's Audiovisual Productions, we do just that. We produce videos for business and event promotions, product demo videos, animated explainer videos, fundraiser ads, and much, much more. Engage your clients and sell online. We customize the video to match your brand design. Guaranteed to play flawless on all devices, including smart TVs. Contact us at telephone number 203-690-4342 or 767-245-6238. Visit our website, mansaudiovisual.com. or email us at derekvideo@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back, folks. Thank you to our sponsors. They with us every week, keeping the mic and live and the lights on. Get your copy of the Flying Crapple number 3. It's pretty exciting. They're writing a genre where it started off like a morph between our folklore and sci-fi, and they've taken it to leaps and bounds. There are quite a few writers who collaborate on it. It's a book of short stories, so check it out. Our Man's Audio Visual as well. They make all the flyers for these programs and the videos and so on. They can serve your promotional needs. Beacon Dental is in Boston. I drive from New York to Boston to get my dental care from them. They're that good. And of course, we have the puzzle book as well. Let me just quickly, before I go back to our guests, just acknowledge some of you who are on. If you make comments, I know that you're on. Dave Bertrand, welcome. Followers of Q95 FM, followers of Push Past 10, the Easter, Dr. Trippy, Margaret Wallace, Eliza Lewis Grumble, Duke Drago, hey bro, that's my brother in Anguilla. Owen Prosper is a fixture every Wednesday night. He's here. Irvin Wayne Rossi, Jane Bernard, again, Push Past 10, of course, Dr. Simone Matthew. I cover everybody who has commented. Simeon George says good night. Alexander Elise, as the government, where the 10 million went, that could have set up a fund and used as credit. If my guest want to tackle that, she's welcome. Petra Carbon George as well. Frederick Amor, Soph Strigo Hesis, Hyacinth Thomas, my cousin. I just found out she's in Dominica. Good evening, my dear madam. As well. Okay, the number of you as well. So, but those that comment comes up live and I can see that you're on. A lot of folks in here, a lot of interest in here. We are talking to Miss Annette Sanford, the new Kalinago chief, the first woman Kalinago chief. Somebody texted me and said they wanted me to ask her, in a country like Dominica where there's so many women in leadership, and the country where the first woman leader in the southern hemisphere, they said, in terms of Miss Charles, what does she think is the reason why it took so long for the Kalinago people to get a woman leader? We'll deal with that as we go along. But we were talking about some of the immediate needs that that the Kalinago people face, and Chief Annette's first 100 days in office. What are some of the initiatives that she would like to jump in and roll up her sleeves and tackle right off the bat? And the first one she said was credit. Uh, I'm going to go back to you now, Chief Annette, and ask you what are some of the other urgent need for your people that you see every day that needs to get tackled right away? Yeah. Your mic is muted, I think. Yeah, there we go. It's unmuted now. Fine. Go ahead.
So one of the other priorities is to have the construction of a Kalinago consul office.
Mm.
Currently, the Kalinago chief and consulars don't have an office space that they can call their own, or where they can have meetings, where they can have conferences, where they can really, have a sitting with other international visitors and discuss. So that would be one of the things that I'm hoping to tackle when I get in there, to see how we would be able to perhaps get a very good designer to put something down for us that will reflect our indigenous culture, but at the same time be an office space for the chief and consul.
Be
Um,
functional.
yes, and also the healthcare sector. Healthcare sector still need urgent attention. We don't have a medical doctor within the territory, and the Kalinago territory is not the same as it used to be when it was first initiated. I can recall from history, they started off with just about 300 Kalinago people living on the reserve. And then, of course, right now we have multiplied. So we are like 3,000. So having one nurse be able to serve the entire community, it's somewhat difficult right now, especially now we have 8 hamlets and we have so many people across from one end to the next. It's really difficult for one nurse to be able to manage the entire area. And whenever one of our people falls sick, they have to travel all the way to Wesley, or they have to find some transport to get to Castles, which is very, very difficult because there's no ambulance serving the area as well. So that's a health issue that we would have to deal with, to see how our people can get better access to health, and how some of their urgent needs can be addressed within the territory. Um, One of the other areas that I would really like to look into is our educational sector. So right now we have a curriculum which only caters for the academics of our indigenous people. Um, our culture, I believe, has to be somewhere within that curriculum. We have to teach our children the traditions of our Kalinago forefathers, so they can grow up appreciating that culture, and also being able to teach the younger children when they get older, you know, about our traditions. So it stays with us, it stays with them, and it gets to be passed on. Um, in addition to that, of course, teaching them skills that will help them to earn wealth, teaching them how to do the baskets, and having an avenue where they can sell the baskets, from small, and not just wait until they get older, but starting from a very young age. So most of the work that I'm hoping to do is really to engage the younger generation, engage the children, so that all of this brainwashing and this accepting of cultures from the outside will be prevented, and they will learn to appreciate the culture, and also learn the different skills and attitudes that will help them to be proud of who they are as indigenous people. Also, I will be tackling, of course, the agriculture and fishing industry within the territory. Like you mentioned, our indigenous people were farmers, and they were fishermen.
Mhm.
So we have to get back to this foundation that we as indigenous people were. With. So currently, if you take a drive through the territory, a lot of the farms are abandoned. We have to get back to the soil. We have to get our people engaged in producing more foods, not only for economic purposes, but also as a form of food security.
Mhm.
We have to be able to have our own foods in the event we're cut off from other parts of the island or the world. We can supply our own selves and our own people. And getting the people back to the soil, having them produce more, and then also taking it a step further in having them produce products out of these foods. So we'll be looking at making our own flour, making our own cereal, those kinds of things, and of course setting up these units for these individuals to be able to do that. This will create jobs for our young people. This will create different skill set for individuals who perhaps want to go and study. And we can send them, to study these specific areas, so that we wouldn't just have individuals going to study to become a doctor, or just wanting to become a lawyer, but they'll realize the importance perhaps of becoming a technician, or of becoming an agronomist, these different areas that are often neglected. So these are some of the major priorities for me going in there, preserving the culture. In terms of the tourism sector, we do have numerous sites within the territory that are being preserved, and they have been worked on most of them, but they are just sites. What I'm hoping to do is create an experience for individuals visiting the territory. So when you come to the Lescali Tetche, you will not only come to see the rocks and maybe the beautiful view, but you will have a lot of activity along the way to engage yourself in, that will help you to appreciate our culture a little more, and perhaps play some indigenous games along the way, walk down some tracks and learn a little history, that kind of interaction with our tourists. These are the things that I am hoping to engage in and have our people engage in, so they would appreciate the culture. It will also build local buy-in, so our people get to appreciate their sites more and get to keep it clean, keep it tidy, and see the value of it, not only for visitors but for themselves as well.
Yes, and as you talk about it, all it starts with the curriculum, getting involved in the schools,
Yeah,
teaching them their history and what things mean, automatically will invoke pride. That,
definitely.
that will make them protective of the treasures and the assets of the territory. You know, one of the timings, one of the alignments to having you here tonight is that on the 9th is International Day of Indigenous People, where indigenous people around the world are celebrated and highlighted and showcased. What I'm not sure if there's any official communication with the Kalinago people about that day, or if there's any activity that's going on. But I want to broaden the question a little bit to ask if you have affiliations with other indigenous people around the world, with organizations that help to cater to the needs of indigenous people, who can probably assist in some of the areas in terms of the aspirations and the objectives that you just laid out. Are you tell us a little bit about the involvement of your people with other indigenous people, if they exist, and if they don't exist, is that one of the things that you would like to see, more involved, stronger ties with other indigenous people in the region and around the world?
Yes, so our current community have been engaged for the indigenous groups across the Caribbean. I know that for sure,
Hmm.
because people like Mr. Irvin Ogist have been working with the Caribbean indigenous group, and he
Okay.
serves on the board. We have other members of the council who travel overseas yearly to interact with other indigenous groups. However, I believe our weakness is that most of the times when these leaders travel, there is no communication with the public as to what transpired. So then people don't really appreciate perhaps that link or that bond that has been formed. And hopefully during my term, I will do things differently. I'm hoping to have meetings with the public at least every quarter to give them a report of what we have done, some of the things that we intend to do for the incoming quarter, and also to give a financial report of the council. So having a more transparent council, I believe, will develop trust as well as build a stronger network. So these individuals, these past leaders, I know Lorenzo have traveled quite a bit to meet different indigenous groups. But for me, even whilst I won the chief elections, various organizations have already reached out to me. They have expressed congratulations and their willingness to work with me and to build further relationships. So I've heard from the group in Trinidad, I've heard from a group in Guyana, I've heard from a group in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Um, I've heard from one of the groups in Canada, the Cree Nation. They also just had a first female chief as well about 2 years ago. So um, I heard from her, and also I've heard from the group from the United Nations. So these groups have been reaching out to me, and I'm really grateful. And I'm hoping that I can build on these networks and not only share words, but we can share ideas and see how we can work together to develop our communities.
Right. And so I guess what we will do is, as you go forward and you formalize a lot of those regional and international affiliations, days like the International Day of the Indigenous People, maybe we will have events that mark that. What came to mind is that Father Vincent Esprit, who is stationed in Lapland. I think he is the parish priest for Lapland right now. He was the parish priest for a group of indigenous people in Canada for years. So
Okay.
that might be something that you might maybe make a note of, and maybe reach out to him. Might be able to connect you with the folks in there. He was their priest for maybe 10 years, if not more.
Vincent
Father
Esprit.
Vincent Esprit. He's from Castle Bruce, but he is stationed in Lapland. I think he's stationed recently, reassigned to Dominica. So
Okay.
so he might be able to help you establish some of that with another group in Canada.
Okay, great.
So yeah, and you mentioned a few times the Carib Council. We're speaking to you about Carib as being the Carib chief. And we also know that there is also a parliamentary representative. So there are three seats of power, so to speak, in the Kalinago territory. One of our listeners is saying that what he said. Let me pull it up right here. The Kalinago chief should be the elective representative and sit independent in parliament. That's one view. But anyway, the view that the Kalinago chief should be a member of parliament. But in all of that, can you explain and clarify what's the dynamics? What are the different functions where if they're clearly demarcated or if they're blurred, but the dynamics between the Carib chief, the Carib council who has a chairman, and the parliamentary representative? What are the differences in terms of their roles and responsibilities, and where do they overlap? How and as you at it, you can also talk about your own thoughts about how those three seats should ideally coordinate for the benefit of the people on a whole.
Yes, so the Kalinago chief is basically the Kalinago Council chairperson. So
Okay,
the chief and chairperson is the same.
it's the same. Okay,
Yes. Um, the chief and council would serve as any other village council across Dominica, which would be a branch of local government. So they serve under the local government branch.
right.
What makes us unique as an indigenous community is that we are governed by a Kalinago Act.
Hmm.
So that act tells us about the use of our lands because it's communal land, and the chief and council would have the authority to help with land disputes, to create bylaws that will help govern the community, and to assist with just the general well-being of the people. The Kalinago Palrep works with the government directly as the parliamentary representative. So that representative sits in parliament
Right.
and would make decisions with cabinet on things that affect the entire constituency. So the Kalinago territory is part of a wider Salibia constituency, which would include Atkinson. So the Kalinago territory is from Sineku to Bataka,
Hmm.
and including Concord, which is Tuna Village, but it does not include Atkinson. So the Kalinago chief is not responsible for the village of Atkinson, but the parliamentary representative is in charge of the Kalinago territory and the Atkinson. So whatever decisions he makes has to be, um, he governs these communities, the Kalinago territory and Atkinson. Now he has to work with the Kalinago chief when it comes to land rights and indigenous rights and all of that. And I believe over the years it has been improving a lot because what happened before is that the government would have top down decisions without having the people be engaged in decisions that has to do with their land rights decision that has to do with their rights as indigenous people. But as people are becoming more aware of their rights, then the parliamentary representative has to give at least some respect to the Kalinago chief as it relates to the people. So the Kalinago chief really has a voice of the indigenous people, and through them they can decide, on what exactly they would want to happen to their community and really to the parliamentary representative.
Right. And I mean, the major difference is that there's a separate election for the Kalinago chief and for the Kalinago council. Is that right? Because
You mean different from the other consuls?
other councils where you have a one election and
Yes.
councillors are elected and then they select their chairman.
Yes, before the Kalinago people chose their Kalinago chief through the elders. So the elders would look at the number of people that they think were brave warriors, and then they would decide on the individual that they wanted to lead the people. But of course, after the reserve was established and you had this new system come in, we have what we call election. So the chief now gets elected and not appointed.
And the chief sits as the chairman of the council.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that clarifies that. Okay. And so I guess the suggestion that the chief should be a member of parliament is that a common thought, or is that pretty much a new idea? It just came up as a comment in the chat.
Yeah, it's becoming a very popular idea, I would say, within the territory. And I was quite surprised during my thank you meeting. There was the lawyer, Bianzing.
Mhm.
He gave a speech and he spoke to it. And the applause that he got, it was resounding. I mean, the people were like, yes, that's what we want. We want our chief to represent us in parliament. But it has been an ongoing discussion over the years, and more because of the infiltration of politics and leadership imposing their political belief on the people, causing wide cross division among the community members. People believe that if the chief represents in parliament, then people would better be able to work with each other, and much more would be able to be done as a unified force with the Kalinago people, as opposed to having different political parties, serving and coming up for election, causing division within the people. So that
So
has been a very, very popular.
it's been an idea that's gaining
Yes.
popularity. Do you
Yeah.
think that it would be a useful thing?
I think it will be. I think it will be, and I think it can be done. If the people decide that's what they want, then as indigenous people, respecting our rights, I believe that whether the governments or the opposition parties, they would at least have to respect our rights and our wishes and allow us to have our chief in parliament.
Right. So government doesn't have like an automatic fund for the Kalinago people. That's every budgetary year X amount is allocated to the Kalinago people for their use for the development. That's not a thing.
Yes, I believe there's a specific amount of funds given to the Kalinago Council for various projects. As to the exact figure, I think it would
Mm.
vary from year to year, according to how much money the government has. But in terms, and this would be like continuous project, road projects. Most of the development activities we've been having in the territory for the past few years has to do with donors like the United Nations Development Fund or the Global Environment Fund. But the government itself actually initiating programs that haven't been very common lately. I know that, well, 2 years ago, the government established the Kalinago Development Fund, which was supposed to resemble the financial institution that we wanted. Um, that same talk about the Venezuelan funds. So Hugo Chavez, the government of Venezuela gave the indigenous people this $10 million to establish a financial institution within the territory. However, at the time, the government thought that the indigenous people were not able to manage those funds, and therefore, government officials were more prepared to be able to use these funds, and they went ahead and use it as where they see fit. Um, so the Kalinago Development Fund was created to reflect that financial institution. However, the difficulty is it's within the aid bank. And for the past year, we know that the funds have been depleted because persons applying to get access to to those funds have had difficulty. And when I investigated, of course, I was told that there's no more funds in the bank. Um, the government promised to give 1 million, but they haven't kept their promise. So they haven't been consistent with what they have promised to the indigenous people, and it's still very difficult for us as a people to thrive and to do well, like other
Yeah,
governments around us.
because if that is the way your activities are funded, you're pretty much a hostage to the central government,
Very
as
much.
opposed to giving the Kalinago chief or the council a certain budget. Say, here is the money that's allocated to you this year, and then you can go out and look at your community, see where the needs are, and know you have so much money to spend, and you don't have to go and say ask for it. It's already allocated. So that is something
Yes,
I think that,
it's
that
very
should
difficult
change.
because even with our Kalinago week that we celebrate every year, um, we have been having difficulties in getting funds to be able to have successful activities. And, I just had a meeting with Mr. Prosper Paris because we're supposed to have a Kalinago week this year. And we don't even have a budget that's confirmed yet. And it's
And it's
almost September.
September 19th, you said it is.
Yes.
Wow.
So, so I have to help. Um, Although I'm not yet inaugurated, but then it would be still within my term, so I would have to try to see what I can do. However, I'm just saying these are the challenges that we face
Yeah, yeah.
with being successful in the activities that we want to do because of the limited funds that come in.
Yeah, because you hamstrung if you don't have a certain allocation that you
Yes,
know, okay, if it's even if it's small or if it's large, you know what you have to work with and
yes,
you can prioritize. So I know we've covered a lot. Uh, I would like to give you the opportunity to paint a picture for me because the term of Carib chief or the Kalinago chief is 5 years.
yes,
Paint a picture for me. I don't know, 4 years, 4.5, 5 years from now. Um, if you, what would you like to be able to stand and say, my people, I have served you with your assistance for the last 4.5, 5 years, and this is what we have accomplished.
yes. So 5 years time, I'm hoping to see at least 50 indigenous students get scholarships to study in other international universities from the Kalinago Consul Office. I'm hoping to see that we have a Kalinago Consul Office constructed that would reflect our culture. I'm also hoping to see we have our own water system, and that is something that I discussed with a group just 2 days ago. And they think it's possible that we can have our own water system, especially now with the Dawasco issue. And I already foresee that many of our people will have difficulty meeting bills. And we have rivers within the territory that we can use, and we can dam to be able to have our own water supply. And if we have that, then we can source our farms with water, and we can do a lot more. Perhaps, have our own electricity supply in some way. So that is a big vision, but I'm hoping to see at least we have our own water supply to be able to do more for the territory. In within 5 years, I'm hoping to see that we plant more trees, at least maybe about 5,000 trees. If we can plant 1,000 trees per year, 5,000 trees in 5 years, I believe it will help the environment a lot. Will have most of our sites upgraded with a lot of activities for tours when they come into engaging, and in that way, our people will be able to make more money. I'm hoping to see at least two processing facilities within the territory so that our people would be able to have more jobs and process products out of what they produce. And of course, establish linkages with our French communities, our brothers in the United States, and those in Canada to be able to build stronger networks and, source funding and assistance from each other.
Awesome. Wonderful vision. And I wish you all the best. And of course, I want to pledge uh, TDN as a platform where you can come and talk to your folks and talk to other people. In closing, I would like you to make an appeal. We have quite a few people on tonight who are listening. Uh, Ask them for support. And support doesn't always have to be financial. It can be technical. It can just be moral. It can be, but financial if possible, because we hear of your challenge um, in getting some funding for some basic things like organizing the Kalinago Week. And so talk to the folks and suggest to them how they can support.
Yes, so my first priority would be Kalinago Week because I think that we have a lot of potential to do something big within the territory. Usually, we would have an exposition in town under the ministry building. However, this year, I am hoping that the events committee will agree with me to bring it up to the Kalinago territory. So, we want to have that exhibition done within the territory where it will be um, you know, displaying a lot of our traditional culture. So we'll have the foods, different foods, um, both our wildlife and our fish foods on display for people to enjoy, as well as a lot of our dances, traditional wear, um, or craft items will be on display. And I'm hoping also to network with some of the indigenous people close by so they can come to Dominica. I know the time is short, but they can come to Dominica and be part of that celebration with us sometime December 19th, the week of December 19th. So, any one of you who can contribute to helping us make Kalinago Week a success, particularly that exhibition that I'm planning, we will need some tents. If you have a system, perhaps that you can donate for the day that we can use for music. Um, we also need some support in building some of the muinas. So I want to have some indigenous muinas to display what indigenous people lived in before, um, to showcase, and the individuals will be selling their crafts for them. You can take photos. So any way you can help in making this exhibition a success, please contact me. I would be really, really grateful if you can assist us.
You want to give your email address that folks can take it down? Oh,
Definitely.
mhm.
You can, it's easier to get me on WhatsApp.
Okay.
So you can WhatsApp me on 767-615-1381.
615-1381.
Yes.
767-615. What, hold on. Why am I putting a zero in there? Hold on. Okay. 767-615. What are the last four?
1381.
1381. Chief Annette.
Yes.
I comes before E except after C. They taught me that in Castlebrooks Primary School. There we go. Okay. So I want to thank you for your time,
You're
for
welcome.
being with us, and to tell you that we want you to come back. When when you've sat down with your folks and you've really laid out a lot of your plans as you voice them and envision them right now, you're very, very welcome to come back and to make even a much stronger appeal for support, to give folks an update as to how it is going, and what are the next plans that they have. A lot of support on the chat tonight. Folks are very much enamored with your idea about bringing back boat building. They like the idea of the Kalinago Week exhibition taking place in the Kalinago territory rather than in Roseau. Folks are talking about the credit facility, yeah, financial facility that will allow your people to be able to aspire as any other people, to have something that they can put down as collateral to get financing to start a business, to educate their children, to improve their lives. So a number of really aspirational objectives. And so we want to wish you all the best,
Thank you.
all the best, Godspeed, and to congratulate you again on your win as chief, and to say that we are all looking forward to that 5 year speech when you come back on TDN, and you can tell your people and you can recount all of those achievements. I wrote them down so that we can, at the time, we can say, you see, she spoke it into existence. A council office, a number of professional people from the Kalinago territory who got the education, a water system, agro processing facilities, linkages, strong linkages with organizations and people in the region and internationally, and a lot of your culture and your cooking and all of that's those things that we covered tonight. We wish you and your people all the best, and I want to tell you thank you very much for your time tonight.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thanks to all the listeners who have stayed on until the end of this interview. I hope that you can help in lobbying support. Currently, the community is very happy generally, and I think going forward as a united force, we in the Kalinago territory can do a lot together. And I believe that I have the full support of the people. And if we continue to work together, we'll be able to accomplish a lot. But also, of course, we will need the assistance of our brothers and sisters overseas and even just out of the territory as well to continue to encourage us, give us the support when you can, um, despite of the obstruction that I may encounter in the future, politically maybe. But I believe as long as the Kalinago people is with me, and I will listen to them. I will be their voice always. I will not stay hidden, and I will not, you know, have my own personal preference ahead of me. I will put the people first at all times. And as long as I do that, I believe the Kalinago territory is well on its way to achieving all of the goals and objectives that I've laid out tonight. So thank you all so much for having me.
You're very welcome. And tonight in the audience, we had quite a few stalwarts. We have Mr. Alvin Thomas, who can help you in organizing stuff. He's a great organizer. Um, Margot, if you don't know Margot Larocque, you need to find her.
Margot
Also,
was with us two days ago.
okay,
Yes,
well,
yes,
I don't
yes,
need to say
yes.
anything more, but for the folks that are great artists, warrior, fighter, everything. So you have quite a few, and I'm not, people I don't hold it against me, because everybody on here, based on their contribution, can make a difference. Miss Petra Carbon George, she imports agricultural produce to the Virgin Islands. So again, she'd be a good person to connect with, for some of the produce from your farms and so on. There are quite a few people on here that those that I recognize who they are. Um, Tonya Castle Brews, they have an organization that deals with fishing, and the plight of the fishermen in Castle Brews. Castle Brews is right next door to the territory, so there could be some collaboration there. Dr. Simone Matthew on Push Past 10. She has quite an audience as well. As you go through, just a lot of tremendous folks on your Dr. Margaret Wallace, Dr. Trippy. uh,
Okay.
Very inspirational lady. She
Yes.
can speak to some of your folks, even at the leadership level, but also at the younger level, helping them to um, really organize thought processes. It's really magnificent. If I didn't call your name and I'm not familiar with you, sorry. It does. I'm not trying to diminish you at all. I cannot call everybody who's on here, but I just wanted to acknowledge some of those folks and to tell you that there are quite a few people with resources, and there are others. There are folks from within the territory. I cannot remember the young man name now. I interviewed somebody from the territory who's a pilot who built his own plane with a German man who lives in the territory.
Yes.
Um,
Real star.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we have a lot of potential that we can tap into that can help you succeed. So I want to again wish you all the best and say thank you so much for your contribution.
Ayohora, which
Uh,
means thank you.
okay, Ayahara. Okay, and
Yes.
is my breaker also goodbye or is just hello?
No, it's hello.
It's just so what do you say goodbye?
Well, Ayohora is thank you. Goodbye. I will get back to you,
Okay,
Anthony.
all
Have
right.
a
So we have to get those words and we have to build up the vocabulary and we have
definitely.
to share it and we want to see a very strong Kalinago people exist in 50, 60, 100 years from now.
Yes. So
All right. So
bye.
bye bye. Good night. All right. So folks, there you had it. A wonderful, wonderful conversation with a tremendous leader of the Kalinago people, Chief Annette Sanford, and wish her all the best in her reign as Kalinago chief. I cannot live tonight without sharing some condolences with the family. We lost a member of our family this week, Mr. Augustus Drago. He was an educator in Castle Bruce, and the whole village is in mourning because he was, really involved in the community. He's in the choir. He used to do woodworking. He was a teacher, and he passed on Monday, a young man, and his condolences. He was my nephew, but he also has his wife Charlene and their kids. So our hearts and our heartfelt condolences with them. Also, we learned yesterday of a tragic accident and death as well of a mother and her son. We can just imagine how tough that must be to process in just a matter of a few hours to lose two people. So our thoughts are also with you and our condolences as well. So, folks, we get challenges, but that is all the more reason why we have to live our lives and contribute where we can. So let's pledge our support to let's each of us pledge a commitment to ensure that Chief Annette succeeds. She has a successful reign as chief of the Kalinago people. And folks, I want to say good night and thank you so much for staying with us. This has been another episode of This Week Interview with your host and guide, Anthony Drago. We do this again next week, Wednesday. Good night, everyone.